Welcome to Kendra's Artistic Crochet Designs. And today I'm going to show you how to make this square that's going to go along, that's going to go in the blanket, our St. Patrick's Day blanket, and this will go along with our squares that we've been making for St. Patrick's Day. So I'm going to show you how to do that to make this. So we are going to start with a magic circle. I'm going to chain one. I also wanted to show you this neat thing I found on Amazon. There's a whole pack of these. So this is a 8mm and a 7mm. And when you're making, small stuff like this in Tunisian crochet, this little thing comes in handy. And I really, really like this, the way this worked for me. So we're going to do 3 single crochets in here in this magic circle. And then we're going to chain 2. And then we're going to put 3 single crochets in there again. We're going to make, it's a sort of a start of a granny square. And then chain 2. And then we need 3. And so we have the 4 sides done. We're going to chain 2. And we're going to pull this closed, the circle closed. Oh, wait a minute. We only have 3 sides done. All right, so let's do another 3 single crochets in here. Goodness gracious. All right, now we're going to chain 2. Now we've got a square, and now we can pull that closed. Okay. All right, so this is the first stitch right here, and now we're just going to start pulling up loops. So we're going to go into this stitch. We're going to do a base of the Tunisian crochet in this round. So that was round 1. This is round 2. And we're going to pull up so this is the first stitch. Now we got to pull up another stitch. So these 3 were in those single crochets. Now we're at the corner. And we're going to single crochet. Then we're going to pull up a loop from this first chain. We're going to go into that chain and pull up a loop. Okay, then we're going to go into the chain 2 hole and pull up a loop. And then the next chain, we're going to go into there and pull up a loop. So you should have 3 loops on this corner. All right, and then we're going to go into these 3 single crochets and pull up loops in the 3 single crochets. All right, now the first chain, we're going to pull up a loop, go into the hole and pull up a loop, and the second chain, go into the chain, pull up a loop. All right, so that's about all that we're going to get through, and I am going to pull in I'm going to turn this around because we're going to be doing this in the round, and I am going to make we're going to go in the first one, and then we're going to go through 2, and we're just going to keep going through 2 until we have 2 loops on our hook. All right, now we're going to turn this back around. And then we're going to pull up loops in the next 3 single crochets here. And then we're at a corner, so I'm going to go in that first chain and pull up a loop, and then into the hole and pull up a loop, and then the second chain and pull up a loop. And then we need to pull up a loop from each of these 3 single crochets. And then we're at a corner again. So we're going to pull up a loop there, go into the corner, and then pull up a loop. And we don't have to pull up that loop because we already have that loop there. So we have the 3rd loop there. And then I am going to need some stitch markers. And this was the first stitch. I'm going to mark that. Well, actually, I should mark it as an orange one. Or the green one. Because I should have marked all my corners as well. So this is going to be our first stitch, the green one. And the middle stitch that we used for the corner, which this was a corner right here. And just go through and mark that middle stitch as on each corner. So that was a corner, and this is a corner. We're going to turn this around. I'll turn this back around. Where are we at? Right here. And finish off this row here. And then turn it back around. Alright, so we have this corner. We need to put a stitch marker. In this corner. So now we have all 4 corners and our first stitch marked. Okay, so that was the base stitch of our Tunisian crochet that we did on that second row. Alright, so the first Tunisian stitch that we're going to do in this square, because there is 3 different Tunisian stitches in this square. The first one is going to be the simple stitch that we did in January. So we're just going to go through and make sure that we pull up the right yarn. Make a simple stitch. So each one of these gets a simple stitch. Until you get to the corner. Then when we get to this corner right here, you're going to go straight through in between the stitches. Right in between the stitches. We're just going to, and I forgot to put this back in my first stitch. This was the first stitch right here. It's a little fiddly at first because it's so small. All right, and then you're going to go in that corner, do the simple stitch in this corner, and then put your put this back in, and then on this other side of this corner, we're just like we did on both sides, we're just going to go straight through and bring up that stitch. It's in between the stitches. You just go through and bring it up. All right, so now we need to do our simple stitch on these stitches. All right, then we'll turn it around, and you're just going to keep going through two all the way around now. Every time that you go turn this around, you'll always just go through two. And go through two again. All right, so now we're at a corner again, and we're going to go in between this stitch and the corner stitch and go straight through and pick up a loop. Then we're going to simple stitch the corner, and then in between the stitches again and pull up the loop. And we'll make sure to put our stitch marker in that middle stitch, which is the stitch that we did the simple stitch with. All right, now we're going to simple stitch in the next stitches. Until we get to this corner, and we're going to do this corner now. So that was the stitch that I just did in between the stitches. And then the simple stitch in the corner, and then in between the stitches again. That's how every corner should be done. And then simple stitch the rest of the way around here. And then we have this corner to do. All right, and then we'll turn this around and we'll get these stitches taken care of. Finishes this row up, which is row 3 of this square. All right, so row 3 is done, and this is what it looks like. And you can see the simple stitches right here. So we need to go around and do the next 4 rows, I believe, because we want 5 rows. There is 5 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you will see 5 rows of these simple stitches. So we got to do 1, 2, 3, 4 more rows. I do believe. Okay, so we're going to do that, and then we'll be back to show you the next row after that. Okay, so this ended up being 7 rows altogether. Okay, so now we're going to do row 8. And starting with row 8, we're going to knit. So we're going to go through the stitch that way, just doing the knit stitch. I'm going to put this back as our first stitch. So we're just going to go and do the knit stitch here. And then when you get to the corner, it's the same thing. You go straight through in between the stitches. And then in the corner, you're going to do the knit stitch. And then on the other side of the corner, just like we did before. So don't forget that stitch. And there's 3 stitches in each corner. Put that back. And so now we're just going to go in each corner and do the knit stitch. Or each stitch. And then when you get so much on there you can't get any more, then turn it around and just keep going with our 2, going through 2, going through 2 until you have 2 loops left on your hook. And then you'll turn around and you just keep going around until you get the row done. So then you need to do 5 rows of the knit stitch too, and I think it ends up being 6 rows. So you will have 5 rows. You'll be counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of the knit stitch. Once it's done. So, all right, so we're going to do that, and then we'll be back to do our third stitch after I get those 6 rows done. Okay, so there's that. Looks pretty good. All right, so now we are going to start something new. We're going to do a what do you call this? This is the stitch that we're working on now. What's the purl? We're doing a purl stitch. So we're just going to do a purl stitch on every stitch here. This is also going to stop the square from curling. It'll stop curling from here on out. Alright, and then when we get to the corner, the same thing, we're going to go in between the stitches, go straight through, and bring up a loop. But on the corner stitch, we're going to do a purl stitch on it. I'm putting that stitch marker back in that corner. And then on the other side of that purl stitch, you're going to go straight through and between the stitches and pull up a loop. Alright, and then we're just going to purl. And you will take your stitches off the same way we've been doing it, turning the square around, and take the stitches off and then continue all the way around. Now we are doing 5 rows of this, and once we get to the 5 rows of this, then we will be back to show you how to bind off the square and do the border. So go all the way around it, doing that corners the way I showed you, and we'll be back after 5 rows of the purls. Okay, so I am finishing up the last row of this. We're almost there. And since this is the last row, we're going to go all the way through until we are done down to one loop. Alright, so I am going to cut this off. And this one too. I'm going to cut off a little bit longer so I can sew that in. And this one I am going to tie where'd that go? There it is. Keep that on there. Alright. Alright, tied that on. I've got to tie this one on this side. So this is the magic knot. And make that tight. And then you can just see the magic knot does not come out no matter what you do. There you go. All right, so yeah, that's the right side. So what we're going to do is this is the very first stitch right here, and we're going to bind this off. So how we do that is we're going to do the purl stitch and then a single crochet. And I'm going to do that with each stitch. So make like you're going to do a purl stitch and then make a single. And I'm going to mark the first stitch that I made. It's nice to use these because then I see that coming around and I know I'm almost done with the row. All right. So we're going to do the purl and then a single. I'm going to do this until show you what we're going to do on the corners here. So this is what you call a bind off. All right, so here's the first corner. Take that out. We don't need that. And in this corner, you're going to do the bind off. And then you're going to put 2 more single crochets in there. And then we're just going to continue binding off. And do that all the way around. And then we'll be back for the next round of the border. Okay, so this, make sure I'm looking with that 8, yeah. This row, we are going to work in the back loop only, and we're going to half double crochet in the back loop. I have to bring that up there so I can work that in. The yarn split back there. I don't want that yarn splitting. It won't stay together. Alright. Alright, we're almost at the corner. Alright, so when we get to the corner, it's the middle stitch. And in the back loop of that middle stitch, you're going to put 3 half double crochets in there. And then you're going to continue all the way around it like that, putting a half double crochet in the back loop only. And then we'll see you for the next round. Okay, so this round we're going to work in the third loop of these half double crochets. So third loop only, and we're going to half double crochet into them. So that is we've got the front loop, the back loop, and then in the back of it there's the third loop. So we are going to just half double crochet into those third loops, and the corners are the same, and you go all the way around it just like that. And we'll be back for the last row next. Alright, so this last row of the border, we're going to put single crochets in the third, that third loop, instead of half doubles now. So we're just going to put single crochets in there, and in the corners it's the same. It's 3 single crochet in the middle stitch of the corner, and you'll do that all the way around until the square will be finished then. And it will look like this. Really pretty square. Okay, so I hope you guys had a lot of fun learning something new today. I want to thank you guys for watching. Have a great day, and bye-bye now.